For most of human history, the lion seemed easy to place. A sunlit animal, an African animal, a king of open grass and heat and dust. And yet some of the oldest lion images on Earth are not from the Serengeti. They are deep inside Ice Age caves in Europe, painted in darkness by people who had never seen a savanna. One of the oldest known hybrid figures ever carved by human hands has the body of a person and the head of a lion that no longer exists. And today, the last wild lions in Asia survive in a single corner of India, far from the place most people think lions belong. That alone should have warned us, because the story we inherited about lions was too clean, too modern, too centered on the animal we still see alive today. It treated the lion as if it had always been basically the same creature spread across different lands, wearing local variations like costumes. But bones began to disagree. Then dates began to shift. Then the genome opened. And what the DNA revealed was not one lion story, but several. Split apart by climate, reconnected by migration, broken again by extinction. Beneath the familiar image of a lion was a buried history of vanished populations, ghost lineages, and lost bloodlines stretching back into deep time. What we thought we knew was only the middle of the story. The accepted version sounded reasonable. Lions evolved in Africa. At some point, they spread north into the Middle East and east into India. In older times, they also ranged through North Africa, the Balkans, and beyond. The giant cave lions of Ice Age Eurasia were often treated as close relatives on the edge of the same family, maybe just a colder, larger version of the animal we know now. And within living lions, older classifications multiplied them into regional forms. Barbary lions in North Africa, Cape lions in the far south, Asiatic lions in India, and many more. It made intuitive sense. Lions are powerful travelers. They can cross huge distances. They look, at first glance, like one of the more stable big cats, recognizably lion everywhere, from a Roman mosaic to a wildlife documentary. Even the symbolism reinforced the illusion of continuity. Pharaohs carved lions. Assyrian kings hunted lions. Greeks imagined lion skins draped over heroes. Medieval heraldry turned lions into emblems before most Europeans had ever seen one alive. It felt as though humanity had always known the same animal. But the old explanation only worked if you ignored one problem. Actually, several. Why were lions once so widespread that their remains turn up across 4 continents? Why did some ancient lions seem anatomically strange, almost like cousins rather than versions? Why did Europe's cave art portray a lion that appears maneless and different in body form from many modern African males? Why did some historical populations that looked distinct on the surface turn out not to fit neatly into separate categories at all? And why, if lions were so mobile, did genetic studies begin to show deep population structure rather than one seamless global species? That was the first crack in the story. The evidence did not destroy the old narrative at once. It simply made it unstable. Some of the instability came from geography. The lion of popular imagination belongs to the African savanna, but the fossil record kept insisting on a much larger map. The first fossils with clear lion characteristics appear in East Africa around 1.9 million years ago. By roughly a million years ago, lion-like cats were already outside Africa. Later, lions or lion relatives occupied Europe, Northern Asia, Beringia, and North America. For long stretches of the Pleistocene, they were among the dominant predators of the Northern Hemisphere. That is not a side note. That is a different animal history. And some of the instability came from time. The lions alive today are survivors of severe recent collapse. Their current range is only a fragment of what it was even a few thousand years ago. So when people imagine the lion's origin by looking at the living map alone, they were starting at the wrong end of the puzzle. The lion we know now is not the full design. It is what remained. Then science entered the story in a new way, not just with more fossils, but with methods capable of testing memory written below bone and beyond myth. Mitochondrial DNA from museum skins, genetic markers from modern populations, viral lineages traveling with their hosts. radiocarbon dates pinned directly to ancient remains, and eventually ancient genomes pulled from cave lion bones, teeth, and even remarkably preserved tissue from the frozen north. The question was no longer just what a lion looked like. It was what its DNA remembered. Early genetic work on living and extinct lions had already begun to disturb the old picture. Instead of one loosely connected species across Africa and Asia, researchers found strong phylogeographic structure. In plain English, lion populations had histories, deep ones. Some were separated for long enough that their lineages carried clear signatures of isolation, contraction, and expansion. Later work suggested that modern lions likely arose within sub-Saharan Africa, probably with eastern and southern Africa playing a major role as a cradle or refugial zone. From there, climatic shifts during the late Pleistocene helped split and reshape populations. Expanding rainforests, widening deserts, and changing corridors of grassland repeatedly separated lions from one another, then reopened routes for movement. This mattered because it replaced a simple map with a moving one. The lion was no longer a static African icon that later wandered outward. It became a climate-driven traveler, pushed and pulled by humid phases, arid phases, collapsing habitats, and reopened corridors across an unstable continent. If stories like this interest you, subscribe, because some of the strangest animal histories are still hidden in bones, dates, and genomes. And then the conflict deepened, because the DNA did not point to one unified modern lion population. It pointed to major lineages. Whole genome work on living and extinct lions supported a deep split within modern lions, with two main lineages diverging roughly 70,000 years ago, followed by later gene flow. One branch is associated with northern lions, populations from Asia, North Africa, and parts of West and Central Africa. The other is associated with lions from East and Southern Africa. That sounds technical, but the implication is enormous. The lions of India are not simply isolated leftovers at the edge of the species. The vanished Barbary lions of North Africa were not just romantic outliers. West and Central African lions are not interchangeable with all lions south of the Sahara. The old picture of endless African continuity was wrong. Even the famous Cape lion, once treated as a distinct southern type, appears less like a separate ancient form and more like part of broader southern lion diversity. Some names that seemed biologically decisive were shaped more by human classification than by deep evolutionary boundaries. Others concealed far older relationships than anyone guessed. And then came the lost bloodlines. For a long time, cave lions were often discussed as a branch close to modern lions, perhaps dramatic, perhaps specialized, but still basically within the same recent frame. Ancient mitochondrial work had already hinted that their separation might be substantial. But newer paleogenomic evidence pushed that separation much deeper. Much deeper. Ancient DNA from cave lions compared against genomes of living lions suggests that cave lions and modern lions were distinct evolutionary lineages that split far earlier than many researchers once believed, possibly more than 1.5 million years ago, with some estimates reaching around 1.7 million years or even older depending on the method. That does not erase all uncertainty, but it radically changes the scale of the story. The cave lion was not just a lion in cold weather. It was a product of a very long, independent history. And yet the genome added one more twist. Long separation did not mean absolute isolation. Evidence now suggests that cave lions and modern lions interbred at points in the past, likely when glacial conditions shifted ranges and brought them into contact in regions such as Central or Southwest Asia. In one case, a cave lion individual appears to carry a measurable amount of modern lion ancestry, pointing to a contact zone linked to lion populations that no longer exist. A vanished bridge population, a lost southwestern lineage, a genetic meeting that happened because climates moved the borders of entire worlds. The story did not collapse, it widened. To understand why that matters, you have to picture the lion's wild ancestor properly, not as a logo, not as a zoo animal, not even as the Serengeti male with a dark mane staring into a camera. The ancestral lion was a Pleistocene predator emerging in Africa among shifting mosaics of grassland, woodland, river margins, and scrub. It lived through climatic volatility, tracked large herbivores, and occupied a world shared with hyenas, saber-toothed cats, wild dogs, and increasingly dangerous primates carrying tools. It was adaptable enough to move beyond Africa, but not because it was domesticated, guided, or protected. Lions spread because they were good at being lions. They followed prey. They exploited openings. They endured pressure. Some populations probably lived in social systems broadly similar to modern prides, but social behavior itself would have flexed with habitat and prey density. This was not a ceremonial king waiting to be symbolized. It was a dangerous, opportunistic carnivore living at the edge of human expansion, and humans did not domesticate it. That is essential. The lion's transformation was not into livestock, labor, or companionship. Its passage into human life happened another way, through competition, fear, ritual, reverence, storytelling, and power. Lions entered the human world as rivals first, symbol second, and only much later as captives, trophies, or emblems. So what explains the lion's origin story best? There were several possibilities. One possibility was the old intuitive model, a single lion lineage radiating outward, creating local forms but staying broadly continuous. A second possibility was stranger, that many of the famous lion types described in history were recent, superficial, or misleading, and that most of the real story was hidden in repeated expansions and bottlenecks within Africa. But the third possibility fit the evidence best, that modern lions are the remnants of a once much richer evolutionary landscape. That climate repeatedly broke lion populations into refugia, then reconnected them. That northern lion populations, stretching from North Africa into Asia, preserved one major lineage, while East and Southern Africa preserved another. That some historical populations vanished, so recently we still remember their names, but genetically belong to much older patterns. And that beyond all of them stood an even older branch, the cave lions, whose bloodline survived separately for over 1 million years before disappearing. And that is where the story changed. One of the major turning points came with large-scale genetic studies comparing lions across their present and former range. These studies reinforced the idea that living lions do not form one undifferentiated mass. They also help show that extinct populations like the Barbary lion are more closely connected to the northern lineage, while the Cape lion does not stand apart in the way earlier classification once implied. Then ancient DNA from cave lions sharpened the picture further. Not only were cave lions deeply distinct, but they also contained their own internal diversity. Their populations stretched across Eurasia and into Beringia, and mitochondrial studies suggested more than one major lineage within cave lions themselves. In other words, even the lost lions had lost lions inside them, branches within branches, some eastern, some western, all ultimately erased before the Holocene fully began. That is the hidden architecture of the story. Not one lion, not one expansion, not one extinction, a braided history. Now imagine Eastern Africa in the Pleistocene, not the postcard version, a harder world. Light fading over a mixed landscape of grass, brush, and scattered trees. Herds moving in long, nervous lines toward water. Early humans close to a fire, hearing sounds they know too well. Somewhere beyond the last band of visibility, lions are moving too. Not mythic, not noble, not symbolic, just alive and watching. That shared edge may be one of the oldest emotional relationships in human history. We were prey enough to fear them, scavengers enough to compete with them, and storytellers enough to remember them. By 40,000 years ago, humans in Europe were carving lion-headed beings from mammoth ivory and painting cave lions on stone walls by torchlight. That is a profound clue. It means lions had already crossed out of ecology and into imagination. Long before heraldry, empire, or safari photography, lions were already creatures of the human mind. Then came the long spread of meaning. In the ancient Near East, lions became royal opponents and royal symbols at the same time. In Egypt, they could signify protection. ferocity, sovereignty. In Greece and Rome, they moved through myth, spectacle, conquest, and display. In India, the surviving Asiatic lion would become part of imperial and religious imagery even as its range shrank. Across Africa, lions remained both feared predators and being saturated with status, taboo, and story. Humans changed the lion's meaning because human societies changed. But the lion also changed human societies in subtler ways. It shaped settlement choices, hunting practices, ritual language, art, kingship, and the emotional grammar of power itself. Then, modernity narrowed everything. Firearms, habitat loss, prey depletion, colonial hunting, expanding livestock frontiers, fragmentation, local extermination. The living lion became smaller in range, fewer in number, more genetically cornered. The Asiatic lion passed through a severe bottleneck. North Africa lost its wild lions. West and Central African lions became increasingly isolated. What had once been a continent-spanning and intercontinental story collapsed into pockets. And that collapse fooled us. Because when diversity disappears, simplicity takes its place. We begin to think the survivors were always the whole species. The genome says otherwise. It preserves what history forgot. The deepest twist in the lion's origin story is not that lions came from Africa. That part still stands. The twist is that the lion was never a single straightforward thing. Not in the way people imagined. Its history includes ancient African origins, repeated climatic fragmentation, northern and southern modern lineages, lost North African and Southwest Asian connections, cave lion relatives separated for immense spans of time, and episodes of interbreeding that only make sense once you realize vanished populations once stood between the worlds we now treat as separate. Not a flat lineage, but a shattered inheritance. Not one king, but a dynasty with missing branches. And that matters now for more than curiosity. Conservation is no longer just about saving generic lions. It is about preserving the last surviving fragments of lineages shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of separation, movement, and survival. A lion in India is not just a lion in India. A lion in West Africa is not simply another lion in Africa. Each population carries a different piece of the story. And if we lose those pieces, we do not just lose animals. We lose history written in muscle, behavior, and DNA. By the time most people meet a lion now, it is already framed for them, on a flag, in a film, behind glass, through a windshield, under a conservation label. Familiar, iconic, almost too famous to feel mysterious. But the lion is mysterious, more than we were taught. Its living face belongs to a much older family drama of dispersal, isolation, collision, and disappearance. The cave walls remembered that. The fossils warned us. The genomes confirmed it. Under the mane, under the mythology, under the modern map, the lion is carrying the memory of lost climates and extinct bloodlines. The DNA did not make the story smaller. It made it stranger. And if there's another species whose history you want to reopen, let me know in the comments. Because the lion was never only the animal of the savannah, never only the emblem of kings, never only the predator we think we know from the present tense. It was an Ice Age traveler, a rival of early humans, a maker of symbols, a survivor of bottlenecks, the last living representative of a history that once stretched from East Africa to Europe's painted caves and across the frozen north. What looks familiar now is only what endured. The rest survives in fragments, in ancient bones, in museum skins, in a carved lion-headed figure hidden for thousands of years in a dark cave, in a few surviving populations holding on at the edges of a diminished map, and in the genome, where forgotten migrations, broken lineages, and extinct encounters still leave their trace. We thought the lion's origin was obvious because we started with the ending. Science forced us to go back before the emblems, back before the deserts closed and forests expanded, back before the last Asiatic lions were trapped in a shrinking refuge, back before Europe's cave artists gave a vanished lion its outline in charcoal, back to a time when the animal was not yet a symbol, only a predator moving through changing worlds. And from that depth, the lion returns to us differently. Not simpler, larger, stranger, alive with history,